It was a rainy Friday night when Sophie booked an Uber to head home from her friend's apartment. The party had been lively, and while she wasn't drunk, the wine she'd had made her feel pleasantly lightheaded. She'd done this dozens of times before. A simple tap on her phone, a quick glance at the license plate, and a ride back to the comfort of her bed. Her driver, Ahmed, arrived in a dark gray sedan, the interior of the car spotless and smelling faintly of citrus. He greeted her with a polite smile and confirmed her name before starting the trip. Sophie buckled in, appreciating the warmth inside the car compared to the cold drizzle outside. The first few minutes were uneventful. Ahmed was quiet but professional, keeping his eyes on the road. Sophie glanced at her phone, scrolling through social media. It wasn't until they passed the highway exit toward her neighborhood that she noticed something was off. I think you missed the turn," Sophie said, leaning forward slightly. She didn't want to sound accusatory, but her unease crept into her tone. Ahmed glanced at her in the rearview mirror. "This way is faster. There's construction on the usual route," he replied, his voice calm. Sophie frowned. The app didn't show any construction, and the alternate route added several minutes to the trip. "Are you sure? The map doesn't say anything about that." Ahmed didn't respond immediately. He just kept driving, his hands steady on the wheel. The rain had picked up, the rhythmic thrum against the windows filling the silence. Sophie's unease deepened. "Can you take the next exit?" she asked firmly. Ahmed's jaw tightened. "Don't worry. I've been driving this route for years. You'll be home soon." Sophie's fingers hovered over her phone. She considered texting her roommate or using the app's safety feature, but she didn't want to overreact. Maybe he was right. Maybe there really was construction. As they veered onto a poorly lit side road, Sophie's anxiety spiked. The street was flanked by thick trees, and the headlights barely cut through the darkness. "This doesn't feel right," she said, her voice sharp now. "Please turn around." Ahmed sighed, his grip on the steering wheel tightening. "You need to relax. Everything's fine." Sophie's pulse quickened. "I'm asking you to turn around right now." Ahmed didn't reply. Instead, he locked the doors with a soft click. Sophie's heart dropped. "Unlock the doors," she demanded, her voice trembling. "Let me out." Ahmed's calm demeanor cracked. "You're overreacting. Just sit tight." Panic surged through Sophie as she frantically tapped at her phone. She hit the emergency button in the app and tried to call 911, but the signal was weak. The car slowed as Ahmed pulled to the side of the road, the tires crunching on gravel. "What are you doing?" she shouted, her voice breaking. Ahmed turned to face her, his expression unreadable. "You need to calm down. You're safe with me." Sophie's fight-or-flight instincts kicked in. She grabbed the handle, yanking at the door even though it wouldn't budge. Her eyes darted around the car, looking for anything she could use as a weapon. Her hands landed on the metal water bottle in her bag. Without thinking, she swung it hard, striking Ahmed's shoulder. "What the hell?" he yelled, recoiling in pain. In the brief moment of distraction, Sophie reached over and hit the unlock button on his door controls. She threw herself out of the car, stumbling into the rain-soaked night. She ran, her breath ragged and her heart pounding. The road was deserted, and her phone was still struggling to find a signal. Behind her, she heard Ahmed shouting, his footsteps slapping against the wet pavement. Sophie's foot slipped on the slick ground, and she fell hard, scraping her hands and knees. She scrambled up, adrenaline dulling the pain, and spotted headlights in the distance. Waving her arms wildly, she screamed for help. The car slowed, its beams illuminating her drenched figure. The driver, an older man with a concerned expression, rolled down his window. "Are you okay?" he asked. "Please help me," Sophie gasped, glancing back to see Ahmed's figure retreating into the shadows. The man didn't hesitate. He unlocked his doors and Sophie climbed in, locking them behind her. She explained what had happened as they drove to the nearest police station. Her hands trembled the entire time, clutching her phone like a lifeline. Later that night, as Sophie recounted her ordeal to the police, she learned something chilling. Ahmed's profile wasn't registered with the rideshare company. He'd been using a fake account. The real driver assigned to her ride had reported their account hacked just hours earlier. Sophie never used a rideshare service again,